So, welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have the man, the myth, the legend that is Mr. Kevin Lockhart on. Now, myself and Kevin did some work. We're just chatting offline, pushing 3 years ago now. Kevin finished up 3 years ago. And I wanted to bring Kev back on because, by all accounts, a very busy man, big business, lots going on there, family, kids, the usual story, right? And the journey that Kev's been on since when we first spoke up to today, there's been lots happened, life's happened, all sorts of stuff going on. And I think his story and what he's learned and where he is now is a powerful one for anyone listening. Yeah, we did some work together, but equally he's been off in the wild on his own doing stuff as well. I think that's important to talk about. And so for anyone listening to this who listens and thinking, I want a bit of help, or even I am struggling a little bit, I think this conversation will be really helpful and powerful for you. That being said, Kev, before we kick off, do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, a little bit about you, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Your introduction was much better. Certainly no legend, but Kevin Lockhart, most importantly, husband and father of three, business owner of an IT service organisation, super busy man, cut myself far too thinly. Get very little sleep, lots of work being done. Run my business 13 years. My youngest kid is now 7 years old, so as you can imagine,
lots going on.
Full on,
Yeah.
mate. Yeah.
I can relate. My business isn't quite as large as yours, but equally 3 kids, lots going on, all the good stuff. Well, look, that being said, then let's kind of jump off. Let's rewind. It would be like 3 or probably 4 years ago now, into the past. We'd followed each other, or you'd followed me for a little bit on LinkedIn. I think, not fair to say, in some areas struggling a little bit. When you reached out, you were like, wanted a bit of help. You reached out to a coach like me. What was going off back then that made you decide to reach out and go, right, I want to make some changes?
Yeah, I mean, God, has it really been that long? So at the point I met you, Luke, I was probably in a really bad place. So as you remember, I'd not too long before we spoke, I'd lost my father, who was also my business partner, may I add. And it kind of turned my life upside down. All of a sudden I was grieving. I was trying to keep a business afloat. I had a mother now to support. I was a mother to support in the absence of my father, and still with my children and the business. So I was not looking after myself, I guess, like by any stretch of the imagination. I I wasn't exercising. I was eating junk food, shit. Sorry for a better word. I was drinking most days, and I just felt horrible. I probably put on about 2.5 stone during that period of time. Just was not bringing my best self forward at all.
Yeah, and thank you for being so open and transparent about it. But it was a tough situation, and we are always responsible for ourselves. But you had a multitude of life events happen that impacted stuff, and for that, you cope as best you can within those situations. And it's fair to say some of those coping mechanisms were maladaptive and wasn't allowing you to show up as your best, right? Plus the trauma and all the other stuff underneath there not really being dealt with just puts you in a pretty sticky place where, yeah, you're keeping the business pushing forward and you're kind of holding on to stuff, but it's a bit like treading water and the tide's pushing you backwards, and it's kind of hard to to keep going, right? Is that fair?
To be fair, mate, I think at the point we spoke, I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, but my marriage was probably very close to ending. Everything felt bad at that point. So I was so busy, but nothing was balanced, mate. Everything was a disaster, really.
Yeah, and it's that situation where you can't quite see the wood for the trees, right? And you're kind of aware it's going to shit, but what the fuck do you do? And I can't see, and there's so many plates
Yeah.
and what's going on. And I think that's when we reached out. We had a conversation and decided to do some work. What would you say in amongst that? And I want to talk about what we did and where you're at now, because that's the important part and kind of the journey that's helped you change all that. What would you think was the biggest catalyst for saying, right, hand up, I need to change, I need some help? What made you decide to sort of pull the trigger on that?
I'd probably say it's the family, the home life, not there's days I really struggle to get out of bed in the morning, and kids always wanted to play with me, and I was fed up, quite frankly, of saying, not now, daddy's busy or daddy's tired. So I'd probably attribute most of it to seeing what my kids were like, seeing life through my kids' lenses.
Yeah. But that's where it becomes all factorial, because you want to be that better dad but then work's absolutely full on and fucking intense. And so, and if that isn't being handled well, well, then you don't have the headspace and bandwidth to show up and be the better dad. And then if that feels shit, you feel shit about yourself, so you have a drink to take the edge off, but then that makes you worse. And so you can get stuck in these like negative feedback loops, and it feels like fucking hell here, I'm losing on all fronts. And equally, as a very successful dad of 3, up to that point, it's not like, you know, you haven't done some good stuff. It's just a few things have compounded to get you to a place where it's like, I just don't know the fucking way out of this, right? I can't see the wood for the trees.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with you.
Well, that's where you were, right? We spent a good chunk of time working through a lot of stuff at multitude of levels, right? Both physically, mentally, emotionally, peeling back the onion on kind of all those areas, and did a load of work. And what was great with you, Kev, is you embraced the process. You're like, right, that's it. I want to change. And there was things you were doing within the business to change as well. I know that was a big journey, not working with me per se, but with others. And so there's been a lot of change happen over the last few years. Let's sort of fast forward to today, having come through that whole process. Like, what have been your key takeaways and learnings, having gone from, let's be honest, a pretty dark, not great situation to where you stand today? Like, what have you learned about yourself in that whole process?
Not to sound like Mr. Miyagi, but kind of balance.
Yeah.
I think I'm a guy that kind of is all or nothing, right? I will throw myself in. So my business absolutely booms when all I do is throw myself into business. As you'll know, and probably a lot of your other clients probably will feel the same. Business is great. Home life is not so great. There always is something. There's always a tie-off, a consequence for something, right? So I think my biggest lesson, if you remember, Luke, we worked together twice. We did 2 sessions. We did 2 whole kind of journeys together. Because I probably didn't learn hard enough the first time. But it was balance. Like, you know, I can have a good home life and a good company. I can have a good relationship with my kids. I can still have a few beers with my friends, but have a decent body that I'm happy with. So my biggest lesson is learning that, you know, everything in moderation, everything in balance. That's it. Key to life as far as I'm concerned now, really.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that go into achieving that quote unquote balance. But equally, with the stage of life that we're at, and I say we, most of the guys watching or listening to this probably like late 30s, early 40s through to sort of mid 50s, business, family, kids, whatever, whether it's a business owner or senior in a corporate or whatever it is, there's so many moving parts. And I think if you want to feel good within your life and show up as you want, there needs to be balance, or at least thought put towards how all these different components fit together. When you're 20, you can go fucking hell for leather, work your bollocks off, like get smashed every
Drink all
weekend.
night, yeah,
Doesn't
have a great
matter
body.
because exactly, because you don't have this the suite of responsibilities that we do now, and I think that's the difference. It's we go, oh, it's because I'm older. It's no, yes, you are older, but it's not the age really. It's the multitude of responsibilities and things that you have now, and so you can't. Well, you can ignore them and go all in on one area, but then that's where it's like ends up being like whack-a-mole, like boom, something else pops up, boom, something else pops up, and you never get a perfect balance. There's a really great quote I heard on our Lord Jocko Willink. He was on the Chris Williamson podcast like this week, and they brought a quote that he likes, which is, "There are no solutions, only trade-offs." And I think if you just accept and face that, that's okay. Because when we talk about balance, to say that you're going to spend more actual time with your family versus work is bollocks. You know you won't. But is the time that you're spending there present and quality and showing up as you want? That's the differential. It might be actual elapsed time, clock time. Yeah, you're probably never going to have the actual balance right, 50-50. But the way I like to sort of conceptualize and think about that, the balance, it's showing up as I want to do across the board in those different work states, be that with your relationship, with your friends, with your family, at work. And I think and look, none of us are perfect. None of us is always perfect all the time. We know that's bollocks, and we were talking about that offline as well. But if we can do that as best we can, and we're putting the constituent parts together in such a way to facilitate that, I think that's where you feel good, equanimity, and that's it. It's not balance zen. I'm just like, fucking work off and not doing anything. That's not how it works. It's just I believe being able to be in the right state, in the right situation. Does that make sense?
Do you know, like a skill I learned, I'll attribute the majority to you, is being able to catch myself when I'm going off the track of that. So you're absolutely right. Like a Saturdays are full of, I'm sure you're the same, full of kids clubs for me.
Yeah.
And I could quite easily, just be propped on my phone and not. But I quite often catch myself now thinking, right, I've got a day with my kids, and I should actually celebrate that day, and I like to pack it out. So, being able to identify and catch it and make that little micro change there and then is super cool. Like being present, kind of best way to explain it.
What you're saying there as well, the being able to sort of catch yourself and check yourself, that's the important bit, because none of us are robots, none of us are perfect. I fuck up and get stuff wrong all the time. I'm on my phone too much sometimes. Like, there's all those habits that I help people work on and that we work on, I get wrong, and also they get wrong too. But if we can get more of it right and be aware of when we're fucking up and course correct, that's where it is. It's the idea of discipline and everything being almost can be glamorized in some regard, in terms of it's like you just grind it out and do it all perfectly all the time. No, that's not how life works. It's doing your best you can with the situation you got, and sometimes we don't always shower ourselves in glory. But if we can look back, recognize we've done that, course correct, and move forward, well, then you constantly iterate and move forward. And you work in
Yeah.
IT and tech, right? That's what you do.
Yeah.
You find an issue, you solve it, you work, you build, you iterate, and you keep going. And it's kind of having that same sort of mindset, but with ourselves as an ongoing project.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some fundamentals that you teach, and obviously not just you, right? But you teach, and we can learn as humans, that will give us not the perfect balance. There's no such thing as perfect, but it will give us the tools, the skills to kind of carve out quality time with the wife, the kids, get the work done. Looking after yourself is the biggest fundamental for me. And we were just talking about my recent escapade of breaking my ankle twice. So it's given me a reminder of when you're not able to train. Like, actually, it's very easy to fall into bad habits of going for a beer with the lads, having a bit too many, then going home and having an argument with the wife, and and all those kind of things. But in order to kind of get the balance correct, it's like look after yourself first. Look after your health, your well-being, your mental. That was a big one. I remember you and I got me journaling quite a lot, to be fair. Get that right. It kind of makes you more present, makes you more aware of your situation, what you're doing. Then you can just tweak. As I said, anyone that says they live a life 100% correct, bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But if you can tweak it along the way, then yeah.
Totally. And what you said there about taking care of yourself first, looking after yourself, I think that's so important as well, because that can be deemed as selfish, right? But it isn't. Self-care isn't selfish. If you are the fulcrum for your business, your kids, your missus, your relationships, you're like, and I'm not saying like we're all the center of the universe, although the reality is we all feel like we're the center of our own universe. You're kind of the fulcrum for supporting that. And if you're not taking care of yourself first, well, then everyone and everything gets a shitter, diluted version of you as a byproduct of that. And so putting yourself front and center in terms of the self-care piece, that ensures that you then are able to show up for others and your business and your kids as you want. But that isn't also just telling everyone to get fucked and doing whatever you want all the time. It's not that either. Again, this is that sort of 10 years balance piece of, well, what can I do within the environment that I'm in to get the most out of myself? And some days and some weeks, that might be less than you would want to do, but it's the best you can relative to what's happening
At the time.
in life.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, that's the magic. And it's been able to ebb and flow between those states. And some weeks you're peaking, everything's great, you haven't got a broken ankle, you're training perfectly, you're not on your phone, you're showing up as the absolute best ever. Then next week, your biggest client's about to fuck off, half the team's left, someone's just your kids are sick, right? Do you think you're going to be able to do all the things and show up as exactly what you want? No. But lower the bar and do the minimum of what you can do in terms of the self-care. Still put yourself front and center with what you can do, but recognize there's no solutions, only trade-offs. Some things will have to get traded off, but that's okay relative to that. But then, next week's better again. Off we go. And I think for me, that's the real sort of trick or hack, if you want to think of anything like that.
What? You're absolutely right there. Last week, I probably had the perfect flow of ate well, slept well. I was on holiday. I was in Turkey, so I had nothing better to do than spend time with my family, go to the gym every day, drink water, and so much more fluid than I could take in my body, eat consistently, grilled meats, salads, what have you. Yesterday, first day back in the office, new client on board, and absolutely love it. I had no choice but to have a Wendy's burger for lunch. I did train in the evening, so I managed to pull back the day. Probably didn't get my 12,000 steps in, but did make sure I got at least 10,000. I went for a walk,
There we
basically.
go.
So wasn't perfect, but made the best of it that I could. So,
And for me, that's exactly what it's all about. And it can. I'm just being transparent. When guys come into the programs and we're coaching and stuff, sometimes they come from the place that you're talking about, Kev. Where you're like, I'm not feeling good, and I'm not being disciplined. So it's like, right, I need to pull my socks up, and we've got to get on and grind this stuff out. And there is an element we want some of that, but then. And then halfway through, I'll be like, "Yeah, but you just need to chill out, cut yourself some slack." He's like, "But it seems at odds." It's like, "Yeah, but we're meant to be disciplined. Like, what's going on here?" It's like, "Yeah, but there's this real tension between yes, we want to be disciplined and do stuff, but sometimes you just can't, and that's okay. But not I can't fuck everything. It's I can't. What can I do? And the what can I do piece. That's it. Like you said, well, okay, was that yesterday perfect? No. But I still did some of the minimum bits, and that's good enough. And then today's a different day, and we can crack on again. And it's being able to recognise that. I think where people can often get stuck is they have a day like that, they decide that for whatever reason the standard that they've got for themselves it's broken, say fuck everything, and then they just let everything snowball. And so then actually it's not actually the event or what's happened, it's their mindset, how they're perceiving the situation, and then how they behave after it that actually trips them up, right?
you can have a bad week. You can have a bad day. Don't make it a bad week. Yeah.
Exactly that. And but it's like, oh, we'll start again next Monday.
Yeah.
No, start again in 2
Oh,
minutes.
yeah. Diet starts Monday. Yeah.
Yeah,
Times
diet
I used
starts
to say
Monday,
that.
or well, fuck it, it's all gone wrong now. But it's not how it works. But equally, and it's interesting. I think as a business owner for yourself, and the guys I work with and listen to this, running businesses, teams, whatever, the way that you would behave with yourself in terms of that, oh fuck it, fuck everything, whatever. Would you ever do that with like a client or a team? You wouldn't go, oh, you're all sacked. What? Yeah, but yeah, no. You'd be like, oh, hold on a second, guys. Let's just work out what's gone wrong, what happened, what we do different, how we change it, and you'd really get into the weeds and work out why and do some root cause analysis. For some reason, when it comes to ourselves, I guess that's probably why I've got a job. Like, it's hard to see that yourself, right? And so when someone points a lens on that, you go, oh, actually, that's now seems pretty obvious. But you can often just sort of quote unquote self sabotage and trip yourself up because you're like, oh well, fuck it. It's like no, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
wouldn't do that in other areas of life. So why do you do it to yourself?
Yeah, that's where the expression "practice what you preach" comes from, right?
Yeah,
Like we all do it. Like, and it's great that you could admit that you do it as well. And like some of your content's based around you still like a drink, where
yeah.
you don't need to be this perfect person all the time, but cut yourself some slack when you're not. Like, really, just accept it's a blip, correct course, get back onto it.
On we go, and that's it. Because life isn't perfect. We're not perfect. Spoiler alert: you're always going to be too busy. There's always going to be too much stuff going on, and so it's like if you accept that as the default, it's like, well, right, what do we do in amongst that? What then? Because we're chatting now, Kevin, I think in a good place mentally, physically, notwithstanding the ankle. What do you think's allowed you to be able to continue with this stuff and be running with it still now and still be able to do that? Because like we said, we worked a couple of years, we stopped working a couple of years ago, nearly 3 years ago. And I'm sure, like you said, you've had your stressors, things have come up and down, but it's not like the whole lot's fallen over and you've had to call me going, Luke, help again,
Yeah, yeah.
What's allowed for this to continue and build and not just fall over?
I think so. Twofold, really. The awareness of how good you feel when you're nearly that 100%, and when people work with you, right, pretty much for that whole 12-week period, they're 100%.
Yeah.
It's what happens afterwards. So knowing what it feels like to really be optimal, to have a really good relationship with your family, with your kids, for work to be going really well, and all those excuses that you make of why you don't do things, actually see that it's bullshit. So showing you how life can be is the main thing, and then building the habits. And then I remember working with you. It was always like, okay, go for first week. I was like, Christ, how am I going to lose this weight? Because all it was go for a walk
Yeah, yeah,
and drink your water and have that cold shower.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, but what you were doing there, you building the foundations of just, I think you called them non-negotiables, right? Just things you do every day. So like I wear this every single day, and it's like, oh, I need to go for a walk. Doesn't matter what. It could be the end of the day. Kids have gone to bed. I've got a little walking treadmill at home thing now that goes under my desk. It's like get those 10,000 steps in, or something along those lines. So seeing what life is like when you are performing your best, and then when you're not, you can just go, right, what are the little steps? What is the one thing I can do now that's just going to take me that a little bit closer to getting back on track? That accountability is also a massive one. So I still work with PTs, still work with a boxing coach, things like that, because when life gets in my way, I don't want my little inner demon to say, oh, don't go to the gym today because you've got to get that report done. What I need is somebody going, excuse me, mate, you're supposed to be here at
Yeah,
6 o'clock. I'm waiting for you.
yeah.
Yeah. So little hack, rely on other people or hold yourself accountable to yourself and other people kind of works for me.
Well, that's what you explained there. It's a combination of accountability, right? You've got the self accountability around the foundational, the habits, the fundamentals, and you talked about journaling and other mechanisms, so you can recognize and check yourself. But then there's other areas where you realize I outsource a bit of that to somebody else that really helps me keep going. And I think a combination of that makes complete sense. And for me, like ultimately, I want to empower people so they can thrive in their life no matter what, right? Outside of having a coach. That's the point. But on the flip side, there is power in having outsourced accountability to help give you insight, just to hold the line. And I myself, I've always got a coach or a therapist or some form of coach in my life, because I always say, like, who am I to charge a premium to help other people? Am I the finished article? Am I fuck? Right? I'm as far. I need, we talked about, being told the obvious. I need to tell him what's right in front of my face because I can't always see it. And so I think if you heard a coach saying that they're perfect and they don't do that, I think they're a fraud and full of shit. Like, we're all on a journey and we're all a project, and so I need help like that. So I think having something like that, if you can and you want to, is a powerful thing. But equally, what you said there right at the start of when I asked you the question about the building in the foundational habits, I think often when we're not feeling our best, like you were describing, Kevin, probably some of the guys listening to this or some of the guys who have historically felt like that, it feels like it's a big fucking existential problem, right? But then you're like, well, so I need a big, massive fucking existential solution. And it's like, no, that's where it's wrong. It's the 80-20 principle in reverse. You need some small, tiny foundational things consistently compounded, and they have such power, you can't quite get over it. A gent in one of the group programs messaged today, and he was like 2 weeks in, and he's just said, like, oh my God, I can't get over the fact that my morning routine's better and I'm feeling better. And all he's doing is drinking more or doing a few steps and some other bits. It's like, and what's that going to do? Like everything. But I think, again, for most of the guys I work with, knowledge workers, kind of, it's all quite cerebral. We want to intellectualize how big our problems are. There's some fucking basic things that if you just do it, will instantly raise your headspace, or you feel physically, mentally. Because some guys sometimes they're like, I just need to sort my mindset out. Yeah, you do. Okay. And maybe you're not overweight, but like, equally, you're sleeping like shit, you're stressed out your head, you're on your phone continuously, you're not drinking enough water, you're not really doing any exercise even though you're not fat. Well, do you think if we address some of that, you might feel a bit better? And the answer is yes, you fucking will. And so it's not that that's just that. We need to do the bigger picture stuff as well, like we did, Kev, some deep dives on where we're at. That's also important. But there is such low-hanging fruit in those foundational basics, but I think a lot of guys miss it. And or often maybe our egos don't allow for it as well. You're like, well, I sort of know what I need to do, and I just need to cane myself in the gym 2 times a week and it'll all be great. It's like, nah.
Burn out very quick when you do that, don't you? You go all that. I mean, I did this for years. Go all or nothing. So I'd go in and go, right, I want to build some muscle. So I'd go to the gym 6 days a week. You're absolutely right. And then you're like, then the fatigue kicks in and you're like, I need a rest day. And then you just don't bother.
Yeah.
That's how most people, and certainly I lived my life for a very long time. I read a book. I read a lot of books these days, but a great one called Atomic Habits.
Yes.
And it talks about habit stacking and things like that. So that's exactly what you're sort of saying, right? One small thing, be consistent, add a little one on top. And that was the whole idea of just get the steps, just get the water. If nothing else, do that. And then things just happen to build on top of it. And, that's pretty much how I'm living my life now, is like, what's the one small thing I can do? Okay, that's cool. That was easy. Let's add something on top of that. And except for take medication. I always forget to do that. My supplements.
Yeah. But then that compounding effect there, and that the simple small things is really powerful. But also, just from a self-esteem perspective, if you haven't been feeling great, like you look back and go, oh, that was a bit of shit. Yeah, but I did this, this, and this. Oh, well done me, because I didn't do that a week ago, and I wouldn't have done that a week ago. And there's that kind of like winning the day. A few small things done consistently. Well, that's a load of stuff that I wasn't doing. And when you're feeling shit, or even just subpar, seeing yourself do that, achieve that, it's, I can, and it gives you agency back. I can do stuff, and that's a more empowered place to operate. So rather than setting the bar really high, hanging on for dear life, and then it falling over because life gets in the way, because it will, lower it and do something you can nail.
Yep.
And then if you allow your ego to sort of not run away with itself, and you go, oh bloody hell, I just did those things, but I feel great, wicked, on we go. That's it.
Yeah, I like to go to the gym in the morning, so you have the most amount of willpower right in the mornings. But some days still your body just doesn't allow you to, and that's okay. Like so, maybe there's certain situations I've gone to the gym, I've got myself dressed, and you get there and you're like, I'm here now. I might as well just walk for 5 minutes on the treadmill, or whatever, right? And then it starts building, and then you go, oh, I might lift a few weights, and I have never ever left the gym regretting going to the gym.
Never. Exactly. Yeah. It's the reverse.
You could easily talk yourself out of it, right? But as soon as you go there, you're like, I'm so glad I do. And then you've won the morning already. I think you get into the office, you're pumped up. The staff hate it when I go to the gym in the morning. I'm sure they do. Mr. Motivator. Yeah. Let's do that. But it sets your day up correctly, right? So like even when you don't feel like it, just do that one thing. For me, it was put your gym clothes on. Get in the car is the next thing. Turn up. You're not just going to turn around and drive. You're already at the gym now. You might as well go in. Walk for 5 minutes. Just those little things just build up and they make a big difference, right?
Yeah. Well, that again, another live example of that. Another gents this morning in the program, there was a few of the guys messaging and a bit of pushing each other and getting excited about stuff. And then one of the lads was like, "Kids look like shit." He's got like young kids. Kids look like shit. We're in at 5:15. I was meant to up and do my thing, and I can't now. And I was just going to lay in bed. And then I just saw that message and I was like, right, fuck it. That's it. Kids, you can go and set them up doing something. He jumped out of bed and did 50 burpees. It's just like it's not the gym. It's not perfect. But then and he was like, afterwards, I feel so much better. And it's that mindset. It's like they've woken you up and you're tired, therefore you can't do anything. Okay, in one world that's true. But in another world, you can say, park them, help keep them occupied and just do 50 burpees and blow the cobwebs out. And again, that's the self-esteem. You've done some exercise, you've won. You'll feel exponentially better having done that than not. And it's not really about the exercise. It's about your mindset and how you approach that situation. And I guarantee for the gent we're talking about, his day will go better and he'll feel better for the rest of the day. Yeah, having made absolutely. That one decision for himself. Because then cascade off that, it's like, well, that's that shit report. Fuck it, I'll do it anyway. Do you see what I mean? It just breeds that kind of mindset, I think.
Yeah, it does completely. Yeah, and like even the things it does for my relationship, like you can imagine, right? I get home from work, I still take work home with me because my house and my office are very close to each other. I still get calls at home or what have you that I have to take, and my mood can change very quickly in the house, and you can kind of notice. But like if I can wake up, feel a bit groggy because my kids are still young enough to get this morning I was in my son's bed at 3:30 this morning, fell back asleep, but that's cool. As soon as I go and do something for myself that gets the blood pumping, mainly is the main thing, right? A little bit of exercise, what have you, I come back and I'm just a completely different person in my household. The stress has gone. This dark cloud has gone from the house. Nobody's treading on eggshells because dad's just had that phone call from the client or whatever it happens to be.
Well, that's a great example where like your mood and how you treat yourself, looping back to self-care isn't selfish. Well, it has a direct bearing on everyone else. And so if you have that shitty call, you're like, right, just give me 5 minutes. I need to go and clear my head, do 20 push-ups to blow the cobwebs out, have a walk around the block, whatever. Although, okay, that 5-10 minutes of time you're not there, well, that's selfish. But that means when you walk back through the door, you're there being the person you want to be. And again, back to the point about not robots, it'd be great to be able to have a call that and you just be like, not bothered. That's not always how life works. So you might journal and get clear your head, whatever else. To think we're not going to have things that don't bother us and we can just walk around zen is fucking nonsense. But it's like, okay, that's happened. I had a shit call. Well, fuck my kids. I'll do whatever I want. You can choose that, or you choose to do what you just described. And that's the bit where we always have a choice, right? And I think if we can be in the mindset of like, right, I'm pissed off and frustrated. I don't want to let this bleed into the rest of the family. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then you've got options, right?
Yeah. You call it self-care quite a lot. Do you know, I've started calling it self-respect.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, definitely. Because it is self-respect.
Exactly, the way you treat your body and everything like that. Like if you treat it with respect, you like a classic car. Certainly at our age, we can say classic cars. We need a bit of care and respect and looked after, and we'll perform well. And it's kind of that simple.
No, totally. Well, look, Kev, I know you're very busy, so I don't want to cannibalize any more of your time. Thank you for coming on and talking and sharing your story and journey. Again, it's a powerful one. It's a great one. And your honesty and transparency for where you're at is also really helpful because a lot of guys sometimes, as blokes, we don't often talk about how we're feeling and where things are at. And sometimes you could see a mate and go, yeah, it's all great, and not realize all the stuff that's going on up here, right?
Absolutely.
Like we've been describing. So I think it's helpful because it empowers others to talk, to share. And okay, if someone's listening to this and like, resonates and they want some help, of course, drop me a note or in the DMs, or we can have a chat. Parking that though, being able to talk like this openly just gives others license to go, okay, I'm struggling, maybe I do need to do some work. But like we're discussing, it doesn't have to be rocket science,
We're all human.
Yeah, exactly. And to make changes, you can. I think the first step is recognizing, you know what, this isn't working. I'm not happy with where I'm at. Right. That's a fact. Just own that. What can I do? And that bit, in my experience, does much more than you think. And it's just about being able to lower the bar and look at it and go, well, okay, physically, mentally, I'm a bit stressed. How many steps am I doing? Like 5,000 a day. Right. As a first step, let's try and get that to 10 and see if I feel better. As an experiment, just try it once next week. Oh, I feel good. Right. Off we go. And so, yeah, I'm a coach and I can help with that kind of thing, looking at the balance and all that sort of stuff. But we can all do that ourselves, right? And so I think it's just about being honest with your situation and starting small. And then from there, the magic can happen, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, mate.
Thank you. Well, look, mate, it's been a pleasure. If anyone is watching and listening and they're interested in having a chat, drop me a note or give me a shout in the comments. On that note, have a fantastic week. Kev, you're a legend. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.